Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Member of Parliament for the riding of Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, and the beautiful Upper Ottawa Valley, it's my pleasure to have this opportunity to highlight some of the very important measures in the legislation before us today. Bill S5, the Financial System Review Act. We're fortunate in Canada to live in a country with a stable democracy governed by a political party and a Prime Minister who has created a climate in which Canadian businesses can thrive, generating profits and jobs. We respect the average Canadian who pays their taxes, works hard, and plays by the rules, something they expect the leaders in public office to do the same. We're not afraid to stand up against big business or big labor when they break the rules or the laws. We take the time to communicate regularly and honestly with the people of Canada. We have a realistic and uplifting vision of the future of this country, one that respects those who present opposing positions, while at the same time ensuring that individual human beings are treated with dignity. And it's important to keep what we have, that which makes Canada the best place to live in this world today. That includes the public institutions which govern our society. We are fortunate in Canada to have a strong and safe banking system, a system that's been declared the safest banking system in the world for the past 4 years in a row by the World Economic Forum. The International Forbes magazine has ranked Canada #1 in its annual review of best countries to do business. And 5 Canadian financial institutions were named to Bloomberg's most recent list of world's strongest banks, more than any other country. The measures in today's legislation will further ensure that our financial system remains a Canadian competitive advantage, and that consumers receive the highest possible standard of service. Bill S5 includes measures that will improve efficiency by reducing the administrative burden on financial institutions and adding regulatory flexibility. It'll expand the consumer protection framework, including enhancing the supervisory powers of the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada on FCAC, and update financial institutions legislation to promote financial stability and ensure Canada's financial institutions continue to operate in a competitive, efficient, and stable environment. The Act will facilitate clarifying that Canadians are able to cash government checks under $1,500 free of charge at any bank in Canada, improving the ability of regulators to share information efficiently with international counterparts, reducing the administrative burden for federally regulated insurance companies offering adjustable policies in foreign jurisdictions by removing duplicative disclosure requirements, promoting competition and innovation by enabling cooperative credit associations to provide technology services to a broader market. As a Member of Parliament for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, a geographically large rural riding in Eastern Ontario, one of the issues I deal with on a regular basis is the lack of service in rural areas. Several years ago, I found it necessary to contact the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, the FCAC, regarding the closure of a rural bank. The branch was in the community of Whitney, South Algonquin Township, which is east of Algonquin Park. The closing of the only financial branch in an area represented an extreme hardship, particularly for residents without a vehicle. Those with a vehicle faced a 70-kilometer trip to Bancroft in all kinds of weather, where their accounts were to be transferred. Access to basic financial services is something that most Canadians take for granted. By working together in the community, we were able to come up with an acceptable alternative. A credit union set up a satellite branch in a local grocery store, a location that has better hours and more accessible location than was previously the case. That arrangement is still working today. And I mention this as an example, as the legislation before us today expands the supervisory powers of the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. In my experience, I appreciated the ability to turn to the agency. I support that capacity and the continuing need to protect financial consumers in Canada. The determination to continually strengthen our financial system has served this country well. It helps explain why our nation's economy remains solid and sustainable under recent global stress. However, Canadian banks must also understand that they operate in a highly competitive environment and that they must be prepared to respond to the specific needs of Canadian consumers. Our government is committed to ensuring consumers are protected in their dealings with financial institutions. With a growing array of financial services offered to and used by consumers, making sure that Canadians have the tools and knowledge necessary to be confident in their financial decisions is a priority that we take seriously. Earlier this month, for example, the Minister of State for Finance announced the government is moving forward with several measures to protect Canadian consumers and help them achieve greater control over their own finances. These measures, part of Budget 2011, include a proposed ban on unsolicited credit card checks and a new, shorter check hold period which takes effect August 1st, 2012, as Canadians will have more timely access to their own money. The fact is that credit card checks are considered to be cash advances, which generally incur higher interest rates and fees and do not offer an interest-free grace period. The proposed legislation, the regulations banning the distribution of unsolicited credit card checks, will amend the Credit Business Practices Regulation to require federal financial institutions to receive the express consent of borrowers before distributing credit card checks. This will help to ensure that Canadians understand fully the terms and conditions of using these credit instruments and the obligations and the implications that entail from both a payments and household budget perspective. At the same time, a new code of conduct on mortgage prepayment information was also announced. The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, or FCAC, has come out in support of these proposed changes, saying FCAC welcomes the changes that government is proposing to make FCAC Act. The changes are technical amendments or clarifications to existing provisions. FCAC will monitor adherence to the code. Participating institutions will provide a link on their website to the agency. Lenders will make available a toll-free number so borrowers can speak to staff members who are knowledgeable about mortgage prepayments. This improved disclosure will give Canadians important new details to help them make well-informed financial decisions. Mortgage lenders will provide details on any obligations or penalties home buyers might incur when paying down their mortgages. This includes prepayment privileges, an explanation of the charges, a description of factors that could alter charges over time, and customized information about the borrower's own mortgage. Most importantly, the code requires this information when consumers are making key decisions, such as at renewal and in annual statements. After all, if people don't understand the information provided to them by financial institutions, we can never accomplish our goal of empowering financial consumers. Mr. Speaker, these regulations will not sit and gather dust on a shelf. Instead, they will be overseen by the FCAC.